may present. I have taken this project to a country like Tanzania as well. Sadly, many of the students that I worked with could not afford to pay for their own textbooks. Can you imagine a classroom, a school, where students cannot afford to pay for their own textbooks? They come to school without textbooks. Only person who has textbook is the teacher. Teacher has the textbook, but the students don't have textbooks. And the teacher wanted to copy these textbooks, although it's illegal, but wanted to share with the students, but they didn't have a copy machine, or they don't have money to go out and make copies and all these things. So someone might say, then we should just give them more books. Well, we could give them more books, but there is a real good learning model here. This Android phone, which I bought in the US from Amazon.com for $98. This could be shared by many students, in fact. Many students. They work as a group. They are creating questions and they are sharing them. And one thing that I have learned from that particular setting was that the teacher immediately took a picture of the textbooks and projected to the screen so that everybody can see the questions and the materials from the textbooks. In this class, 60 students are in one class. 60 students. So they were able to see the whole contents by doing that. At the same time, what this question is about, basically in Tanzania, English is their official second language. They have to learn English. So what they're doing is they took a picture of a plastic bottle and then asked, what is this called in English? That's a great question, in fact. And that's a great opportunity for them to share their knowledge about English. They're sharing them and creating questions that reflect, this is the key point. They're creating questions that reflect their creativity. And that reflects their critical thinking. Because when they are memorizing things on the textbooks, they cannot reflect their creativity that we all have. If we have 20 people in this room, there will be 20 questions that are very unique and that are very individual, that's very personal to individual person. And we get to share all that creativity, and the students get to reflect their critical thinking. And while they're solving the questions, they collaborate, and they get to save these questions. Good questions, bad questions, they all are good learning materials. Because if it is a bad question, incorrectly written, incorrect answers, those are good materials for teacher to use. You can save this and then continue to use it and share it with people around the world. So this is the scene where teacher is going over the questions here. The teacher is going over each question and asking the students to present. Why did you come up with this question? How did you come up with this question? Why do you think this is the answer and those are not answered? You know, so the teacher could use these materials as very, very educational resources. This is a picture from Argentina. This is Barcelona Medical University. It's in Buenos Aires. And these are the students who are creating questions. These are, I believe, 3rd or 4th year students who have specialty in various areas. You know, some of them are more interested in orthopedic, some of them are more interested in internal medicine, etc. And when they get together and create questions, they become really great learning objects in the class. So the professor is going over the questions that students have created, and they have never done that sort of activity. They never had an opportunity to create a question and share in that group. So it was amazing that the professor was very impressed by the questions that students came up with. Same thing, they are taking pictures from their textbooks and creating a question. And they're drawing things, and they're taking pictures of their own drawings, etc. You guys know the health issue in that area. It's called Chagas. You know, Chagas is a disease caused by a little bug that bites you, and then it gives, I think it's bacteria, they leave. And then it spreads, and then you get really sick, and you could die from it. So it happens quite a lot. So they are creating questions around various topics like that. And then students come up to the front and explain about their question. And then professors, the subject matter experts, because the questions were so tough and they were so deep. So we had to invite about 5 professors to come and then help answer those questions. So, as you can see. And we have taken these to community centers. And we asked the high school students to come up with questions that they think it is important. We didn't tell them, come up with a math question or a language question. Just come up with questions you think it is important for your community. And this is what students did. So they wanted to come up with a question about homelessness. You know, people are homeless. You know, there are homeless people on the street. So they are taking picture, you know, simulating homeless, you know, scene, and then taking picture and then creating a question. Why is there homeless, you know, in our community? And this is a question about depression. Why there are so many young kids who are depressed in schools. So they are creating questions. This particular student is creating a question on school bullying. And they're coming up with possible answers. And their answers are very interesting, very different from our perspective. And it's a great way to learn about students and what they're thinking, what their perspectives are, etc. And this is a session where they're going over the questions and discussing these questions and answers with the students. This is a very different model. This is South Korea, a medical school in South Korea. Students are using iPads in this case because they have more iPads than Android phones. So this is a survey that they're taking, and as well as the questions that they are generating here, and then making questions as a group, and they're discussing the questions, etc. The students said they want to do this every day instead of, you know, the teacher lecturing for hours and hours. They wanted to do this every day because they thought it was more fun, more engaging, highly interactive. And they love to use this technology because you get to use multimedia contents when you're creating questions. This will create a lot of bandwidth, bottleneck issues in network, because in this case, students are putting photos, audio files, video files into questions. So this creates a network issue in some cases, but in South Korea, network is good, pretty good. So they didn't have any problem with that. So this is the SMILE global version, where they came up with questions, they are rating these, and then they are sharing through community. They can share individual profiles, etc. So these are sort of multimedia components that students are adding to their questions and exchanging them. And in some cases, the professor would ask students to go home, watch a video, and create a question about the video. And when students share their questions, the professor can immediately tell whether that student really watched that video or not. Because if the question is so simple, that means the student didn't really pay attention to the videos that the teacher shared with. Or some cases, the professors would give students reading materials. Go home, read these materials, make 5 questions by tomorrow, and we'll discuss your questions tomorrow. You know, so it creates a very different learning model. So what did we do in Mexico in the last 2 days? We went to a place called Cañada del Rodeo. Are you guys familiar with that place? It's pretty close from here. You've never been there? Yeah. You can see this is the middle of nowhere. Well, you have to drive to get to the city, Aguascalientes. Hot waters, right? Yeah. Well, not anymore, right? So anyway, we were able to see these people riding horses on the streets, and they were catching, you know, cattle and things like that. So that's where we went, Cañada del Rodeo, and this is a very interesting school. 1 building, and it's a multi-grade school. So, students are not usually familiar with creating questions, making inquiries. They're not familiar. They're more familiar with memorizing facts. So we asked them, okay, pull out your paper and come up with a question and come up with 4 possible answers. So that's the question that the student came up with. Almost a carne. What was it? What is it called? Animal? What animals are called if they're eating meat? Right? So they came up with, possible answers on the paper. We practiced because a lot of times when you do this project, they're not familiar with the creating questions. Oftentimes, if we ask them to create a question, they say, "How do I make question? I don't know how to make question. I only know how to solve it, but I don't know how to make questions." So we do this exercise on paper first and see if they can do it. So this is a real a question from a student who was attending that school in Cañada del Rodeo. Okay. And then we asked them, okay, now you have practiced enough. Let's create some real questions with multimedia. And they said, what is multimedia? Well, you know how to take pictures, right? Oh yeah, we know how to take pictures, no problem. So they take picture from their textbook and create questions. They are putting the picture in the question and coming with possible answers. So here's the practice one. Here's the real one. They're working as a group. They're doing as a team. They're creating questions and sharing them with other peers. And this is the results that we project to the screen as students come up with the questions and they rate them, rate each other's question. Interestingly, they rate each other's question very low. This is 1 to 5 scale. They rated their questions very low. No one got more than 1.45. I was expecting that they might be evaluating their peers' questions and rate them high, but it wasn't the case. And many students got all questions correct, and some of them got really good scores on solving the questions, and some of them didn't. But this was a team-based sort of an activity, so they put together a team, and then they named each team with a very interesting name. Buenos Dias is the name of a team. And then they came up with a question. And that group got all the questions correct. Things like that. As a teacher, you can see what's happening in the classroom and get to see what questions they perceive as high quality questions versus low quality questions. You can see which group is doing really well on their question making and also problem solving as well. This is one of the examples. This question that was created by a student. ¿Qué se celebra en Londres en 1851? What is that? What do you think the question is? Number 1 answer, El Príncipe Alberto, and obviously the student thought that was the right answer. What does that tell you? Tell me about what you think about this question. What is this question?
You mean the answer?
Yeah, and the question and answer. What is this really asking?
I don't know. Maybe. Yeah. There's some celebration that you could see in the picture.
So the question is maybe, I'm just speculating, the question that this particular student came up with, I think it was this team here, yeah. They came up with this question. What was celebrated in London in 1851? But this is a person's name. Was this person celebrated in 1851 in London? Probably not. So I studied what this question was all about. I went to Wikipedia and then I studied. And here's what I found. First of all, they spelled wrong, the celebra.
Yeah.
So we were able to see that that particular student does not know how to spell celebra. Okay? So that's one good finding. Second, he was saying that what was celebrated, what I found was that in 1851 in London, there was a first World Exposition in London. That's what the student was referring to. But why El Príncipe Alberto? And I studied more. Why did he come with that as an answer? And I found out that he was the Prince Albert, who organized this exposition in London in 1851. And he was the husband of Queen Victoria at the time. So the student knew something about it, but did not know clearly exactly what was celebrated in 1851 in London. So by giving students the opportunity to create questions, we get to learn a lot about that student, and also where they are in terms of grammatical, competencies, and also what they're thinking in their mind. So this is a great tool, and this is a great assessment strategy to find out what each and every student is thinking and coming up with. So here's the summary of findings. The SMILE project, it's high engagement. It gives you high engagement opportunities. Students are highly engaged. If there are 30, if we do this activity right now, we could actually do it. We can pull out our phones and give it to you and ask you to come up with questions. I wouldn't do that right now, but I will know how many questions I want because I know how many people are in the room. So you cannot be sleeping in the back of the room. You have to pay attention. You have to participate. And if you come up with a simple recall question, in layman's term, it's a dumb question. You wouldn't come up with a question like, what's the capital city of Mexico, right? You wouldn't dare to do that because it's embarrassing in front of this group. So you will think twice, 3 times, and 4 times to come up with a question that will impress this group somehow, right? It challenges you. It motivates you. And we will be able to list all the questions that come from this room, and then we can discuss. And we can have each of you come up and then present. Why did you come up with this question? Well, why do you think that that's the correct answer? And the rest are distractors, etc. Very highly engaging, interactive. And we use mobile media and network. When students are using this technology, although you think this is just a simple phone, but it's a powerful computer. If this powerful computer was invented in 1950 or in that time frame, it would be as big as your house. But now it is as small as this. But it's very powerful, it's getting cheaper, and it can store a lot more information. And every week there's a new technology released. How fast, that shows how fast technology is advancing. So what does this do to students? We help them improve their technology literacy. They understand, oh, I can take a picture. It's a digital media. I can incorporate in questions. I can exchange them through the network and all these things. It gives them opportunity to improve their technology literacy and media competency as well. And also, why we use mobile? Because it's a high portability. You can carry literally hundreds of these devices in a bag and go to a school and open up and start this activity. If you're done, put them all back and go to the next classroom and do it again. You can share. When you have a technology that's highly portable and shareable, the return on investment goes really high. It's not like you have a fixed computer lab and everybody has to schedule a time when they can use that computer lab or get in a line to use that computer lab. That's only available in one classroom in the whole town. It's not efficient. That's why we love mobile technology. And versatile features. There's so many things you could do. You can take picture, you can record audio, video, and you can download all the free educational contents from Android market and various free contents out there. And it's becoming more and more affordable. I have seen $30 Android phone made in China, but $30 Android phone. So I think that it's going to go down. The price will go down. It will become more affordable, shareable, and simple. It has everything in it. It's in your hand. It's in your pocket. Very simple. It doesn't matter if your electricity goes down in the middle of all your busy activity. It doesn't matter because it's charged. In places where they get electricity for a very short period of time, it's okay. You can charge them. You can use it for hours. And when there's simplicity, it increases the chance for sustainability and scalability as well, because it's so simple. And students collaborate within own groups and compete against other groups. This helps with the pedagogical model in classrooms. And learning and assessment take place at the same time. Students are